Hello viewers and welcome to our first look preview of WRC 8, a game we've been looking forward to for some time. It's been a long time since the last WRC title. Will have been 2 years by the time this is released. Well, last week I took a trip to Lyon in France to the Kylotonn studio to see how the game was progressing, but also last week some of you may have seen the live stream which took place as well, showcasing some elements of the game, various stages, and of course they had some of the top esport players there to play the game and give their feedback in terms of simulation elements, some of which can be used to improve the physics and make the simulation work as realistically as possible. But of course it all started with this trailer that you see here. Wonderful vistas and views. It really showed the work, even at this early stage, that's gone into improving the whole design, at least from a visual and stage perspective. And really looking forward to seeing what other elements are in the game. There's a lot to explore, but first I caught up with Alan Jarnu, the game director, to find out more.
So this year WRC 8 is back. It's a big improvement in the series. We come with big enhancements like more realistic physics. We've done a big work on this. We also come with 14 countries, 15 in fact, because we also have big countries for testing your cars and do cool stuff with your rally cars. We also have very realistic conditions. As we introduced this year, the weather conditions that are dynamic and will change along a stage, which give lots of realistic experience now. We make big enhancements and big changes in the physics of the car. We also worked on design of our countries, so there's new countries this year. Germany, for example, Germany is a totally new country and is a new experience on tarmac. So it's a renew experience in the WRC. All the countries have been retaken. Some countries are totally new, like for this new championship, this new season, we've got Turkey and Chile that is coming in the championship. Also, all the countries are in the game, and the level design is made with be more realistic. So in WRC 8, we made lots of work on making a new and more authentic physics for the game. Stuff like transmission, engine, turbo, suspension, everything that comes to make the game more realistic, but also big work on things like the collisions that makes your interaction with the environment better and more credible. And also huge work on the way we manage the system. It means we manage on one side the way that the tires will respond to the road, and on the other side to tweak and make the cars and all their performance on the side. Also in the WRC 8 this year is to make a huge work on the weather conditions. It's one of the very important things that you get in the rally experience. This year in the WRC 8, the weather are dynamic. That means that when you go for a stage, the weather will change along the stage. You can start with a dry road and with clear weather, and then it will rain and the road will come wet. So it will have a graphical, visually difference, of course, but it also made to make a big difference in terms of handling of the car. And that's something that will be also very important in your career this year in the game. It's the way that you will manage your cars, especially your tires, before you go for a stage. According to what the guy in your team will tell you about what will be the weather, you will have to make choices, and then when you go on the road and all along the stage, things will change, and the road may become wet, and then when water comes on the road, you will also have puddles coming, and then it will also change the shape of the road and change drastically your driving experience. So all these weather conditions changes are dynamic, so everything there is mostly an unlimited numbers of possibilities in the game. I mean, it's you have 4 different times of the day: dawn, noon, evening, and nights, and all the weather changes can apply to all those times of the day. So it means you have dry, clear weather to a storm weather, rain with snow. All those conditions will be mixed and gives a very big number of different possibilities in the game, which is quite, I think, quite new, or maybe the first time in a WRC game that we can see so much condition of driving. So we made many changes and enhancements in WRC8 this year. We'll come with more information in the next weeks, and you'll be able to play the game in September this year.
Well, thanks to Alain for his time there. Certainly a lot of work's gone into the game so far. 14 locations, 100 stages, plus another location as well, yet to be revealed, which we're looking forward to seeing. And all of them are going to have a mighty scale to them. You can see here Germany, the views, the vistas I was mentioning. It's really nice going along these long, flat-out stretches, and a massive amount of detail going into the foliage, tarmac detail. But to think that it's all dynamic as well. You've got dynamic lighting, dynamic weather, as well as the historical cars that are coming to the game as well. It certainly is building up nicely. Now you can see this section here, nice and quick. That guttering there just on the right hand side can really pull the car into the wall. You've got to be very careful where the guttering is concerned to use it in a positive way, but also be very precise with your steering. You really need to be moving the wheel quite precisely, but a lot at the same time. Depends how you have your wheel set up. I have quite a sensitive wheel, but it was also very authentic in its own way. Some of the new stages look better than others, and we're going to look at those in a bit more detail in part 2. But either way, certainly one of the highlights of the game. And I think the weather introduction as well, certainly there's a lot to explore there. We're going to look at a later date on a later video. But just one quick look at the foliage. I've always said this about Kylotonn games. They have really nice foliage. You've got lots of effects with the leaves and particle effects. And as we work our way up the mountain here, you'll see the foliage becomes thicker and thicker. It's really nice sort of effects that are there. And this is all still very much work in progress. Everything you're seeing here is work in progress. The cockpit cam is still being implemented at the moment, so you won't see that in these videos, but for sure we'll be testing that on a later build of the game, and we'll have a lot more previews to come. But you can see it again here, wonderful foliage. But I thought, let's find out more from the game designer, Benoit, see what he had to say.
In WRC8 we have the 1-1 scale on the new country, and the two new countries we're introducing with the new championships, Turkey and Chile, has been made with the 1-1 scale. So you can have beautiful vistas on the road, the next road, and even the next special stage you're gonna do. You can see 5, 6, 7 kilometers further, but also the mountain like 40 kilometers away. So it's a big improvement to the journey in the rally, to start from one point and to go to another. You really have this sensation of crossing the country line and going somewhere. These two new countries made a total of 14 countries in WRC, and each of these countries still have their character. Still, when you go to Finland, you know what you're gonna find. When you go to Dutchland, you know what is it too. And these two new additions brought a new challenge to grow even more this package of country. And now, with the level design, we have the dynamic weather, and it adds to the character of the level design. If you go to Wales, you're gonna find more rain, more storm, more weather condition than in Mexico, for example, where you're gonna have usually dry weather. So now, more than ever, when you go into a country, you know what you're gonna find, and you have one proper challenge. It's gonna be different on each country, and it's gonna be different because of your car too, because of many things, many factors, many things in the carriers that are gonna influence on it. When we do these stages, we are not replicating a real layout of the stage, but we try to capture the best moment. We are working usually with 7 kilometers of a stage, and we pick hot spots, we pick real spots that exist in the real country. So we try to link them and to create a real story from the start to the end. We want the player to remember his journey. You go from the start, you go up the mountain where you're gonna have beautiful vistas, and then you're gonna dive into a deep valley with a forest, with many narrow turns. And when you arrive down, you have straight line, you have more speed, you have a different character of the country. No matter what, you're gonna find new things, new hotspots, new journey, a new adventure.
So a big thanks to Benoit there as well, talking more about the stages, the journey. And I've mentioned this in the past, travelling from one place to another. The locations don't all look identical. You don't go around the rally thinking, oh, where am I, getting a deja vu. You can see it clearly mapped. You can see those mountains in the distance that you can drive to miles away. It really is very impressive in terms of the scale of the environment, the scale of mountains and stuff like that. But I wanted to find out more, so I asked a couple of the esport players their feedback on the physics.
My first impressions are really good, because the physics has been well improved from previous opus. There's no weird reaction like before. Everything is more coherent. So to me it's a great step forward for the game, and I'm quite happy of my test.
Yeah, so first impressions WRC 8 are actually pretty good so far. I've had a few run-throughs this morning on various different stages in different countries. First thing that stands out is obviously the main talking point, which is the physics, and there's definitely a noticeable difference between WRC 7 and WRC 8. The main thing for me is that the car is a lot more responsive now, and there's a lot more drive to the wheels when sticking your foot down. So heading into a corner is not just about slamming the brake and then slamming the accelerator anymore. It's a bit more managing the brake going in, pulling that handbrake, getting the rear of the car round, and then flooring it on acceleration. So that's sort of the big difference to me, and it's definitely a step up between the 7 and 8 games.
So great feedback from the esport players there. You know, I spoke to all the players in terms of physics. I didn't have time to interview all of them, and one of the things I was quite keen to point out is what makes you consider something a sim and what makes you consider something not a sim. I think that WRC has had this sort of public opinion that it's not a simulation, and the development team have worked hard here to improve the graphics, improve the stages, but above all improve the physics. And the only way to understand that was to play the game myself and try it out. Now do bear in mind, in all these videos, what was really hard playing this was we had no co-driver. So this is my first run down Argentina with no co-driver, but I think immediately, as Benoit was saying, you can recognize it's Argentina. You know, you can see it there. It's tough, it's narrow, it's rocky, it's bumpy. If you go offline, you're likely going to meet something very solid or fly off a cliff. So in that sense, it's all well put together. The car itself was responsive. The suspension was working well with the car. You could drift the car a bit better. It's got better with every WRC in that sense. There's an analog handbrake now, which makes a big difference in handbraking, a huge difference in the terms of the slide handbraking the corners. You've also got obviously the different tyres now, which make a huge difference in terms of a stage, especially now with the dynamic weather. Now I was running clear weather in this run, predominantly because I wanted to show you guys some of the views. I mean, you can actually drive to all those mountains, those misty mountains in the distance. You can drive to those, and it really is very impressive. Though I have to admit, quite mentally taxing. It's a long way down, a lot of work going on behind the wheel, a lot of throttle control. I'm just navigating my way through there. Very narrow, but I was enjoying it. And let's talk about feedback. So feedback, bumps, bobbles, you're feeling it all under the car. You're feeling a very rugged feeling here in terms of force feedback. And force feedback was the thing that many people were saying is the difference between something being a sim and not being a sim. So I think in that sense, the developers really do want to get everything right in terms of the force feedback, in terms of the various different surfaces, but certainly from a physics standpoint, the surfaces are all well sort of executed in terms of the feedback they're giving the player. You really do feel the different, I didn't know where to go there, you really do feel the different surfaces under the car, and you'll see I go to a slightly more sandy, sort of compacted sand surface, and the car starts to slide a bit more, and again, it really does make a big impact in terms of the tyres that you're using as well. So lot to learn. Rally's not easy. It's even more difficult when you're using a co-driver, but it did make you focus a lot more on how fast can I go. And again, for me, the feeling of speed was better here. I had good speed perception for the corners. So for the most part, a lot of the time you're able to slow down, scrub the speed off. The brakes were relatively responsive. Just again hitting a rock there. It's one of those on the outside that you your co-driver would tell you there's a big rock there, and that happens a lot on these stages. Turkey as well. My goodness me, is it challenging. You've got these horrible narrow bridges, and it's very narrow through here as well. And again, you're tempted to go through a few of these bushes, but there's going to be a big rock inside one of them. So physics feedback was really positive. Improvements made all round in the sort of weight transfer of the car, the acceleration, braking, and general feel and intuitive feel of the driving. There's still work going into it at the moment. Still work going into the braking in particular, just to find the right balance on braking. But either way, I found it something I could work with already. There was a lot more in terms of sort of braking and trying to get the car into corners to slide on various surfaces. I think it'll be interesting to see how the expert players adapt to this. And I look forward to, again, here we go. This is what I was mentioning about the compacted sort of sand, if you like. And it really felt very different with the car sliding a lot. In fact, in a moment, I get some wheel spin just because the grip is so very different here compared to when I was on the harsher rock and gravel a moment ago. The wheels spin up a lot more easy, and that gives you an idea of the responsiveness you've got under your right foot in terms of overall control. So just spinning out there, and then I get on the power here. I'm frustrated, and so I just put my foot down somewhere, and then I make a mistake here where the car just comes out from under me. Or maybe that was it. It was just a car coming out from under me just by putting my foot down a bit too hard, and then working my way down the mountain. This is dawn conditions, and so as you work your way down, you get that kind of morning hue, sort of dewy sort of atmosphere to it, which works well with the lighting and the environments that they have. So still work going into these stages. All the stages you've seen are still being worked on. We've got part 2 coming soon, which I'll be discussing this in more detail, going through more of the complete runs from a couple of the esport players, and discussing some more elements, and really just travelling with you guys through these stages. This is the fast section here, of course, and I wanted to go quicker, but your foot's always sort of hovering over the brake, because you're always wondering, right, where does this road go? Is it a 2 or a 3 or a 4? Is the corner going to tighten? You have no idea, so you're trying as quick as you can. But I saw a bit of the stream, and I saw the guy went quick here, so I thought, well, let's just go for it. But then there was that tricky turn right at the end, and that completed that stage. Hard work, and a very quick look here at Monte Carlo. This is very much a work in development. This stage is not finished yet, but I really like the look of this. The way you start off at the bottom of the mountain, there's no snow, and as you work your way up, snow will accumulate, and the conditions will deteriorate. And it's really cool how they've added this to these different regions, and I like the way the colours change, the rock changes, the trees change, and everything alters as you move your way up. And also wet weather conditions, has to be said. I like the way you have storm conditions where trees and everything's blowing in the wind. It'll be interesting to see how that affects the car and the various strategies. There's a lot to explore in this game. The best elements are still yet to be revealed, but certainly one to be excited about. But no comment runs on this game yet. We're going to wait until we've got finalised audio and we've got co-driver support and all that adding to it. But either way, improvements have been made, of course, on graphics and sound, and I'll be coming back on various different elements. Myself, I was very surprised about the historic cars, and they're allowing those into the game on a WRC title, and certainly we'll be following that up later. But and also the dodgy weatherman, I think, is going to be quite interesting when you get a weather report, but it's not 100% right in terms of my notes. It was something I thought that's going to be quite interesting, because what tyres do you use? Whereabouts is the rain going to be roughly here? It's going to be interesting to see what a difference that can make to a stage. And of course, we'll be discussing esport elements as well in part 2, going through what we could possibly expect there. But that's it from me for now, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this first look at WRC 8, and there'll be more from me very soon.